Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. And each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry, and today we're lucky enough to be joined by a remarkable guest, Jean-Louis Quéguiner, who is founder and CEO at Gladia. Hello, JL. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Barry. Thank you for having me, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly.
We did have a conversation before it started, and you said I could call you JL, but I just wanted to give it a try. So from now on, I will be referring to you as JL because I don't think I can get it right twice in a row. So first of all, how are you doing today? It's lovely that you can join us.
It's amazing. Thank you for having me. I'm doing amazing, like every day. You need to have a lot of energy to run a business.
I can imagine. So for those people who don't know who you are, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you work at?
So about myself, I'm French, as you can hear from my beautiful French accent. I'm married, 3 kids, enjoying my family life a lot. But I have another baby on the side, it's called Gladia, that I started almost 3 years ago. And I fell in love with speech like 3 years ago and decided to start this company. And prior to that, I was working in one of the biggest, the biggest European cloud providers called OVH Cloud. And passionate about science, quantum computing, actually, which I spent quite some time on it, and machine learning AI that I've been doing for more than 15 years, and big data and stuff like that. I like data.
So what got you into this? Was it something that you naturally... is it true that you've been coding since you were 10? Is that right?
Yeah. My father is a computer science teacher, let's say, and yeah, having fun at home for me was taking the test from my father that was teacher at the university. So it seems a bit like nerdy, but I was like writing some Pascal, actually, which is an old language, writing some UML using Delphi and stuff like that. So yeah, sounds nerd, but that's true.
So some people are kind of like dragged into a profession, especially if they have a very strong, authoritative or paternal figure in the family. Was it a passion or were you guided, shall we say?
No, not guided at all. Actually, my father is a teacher in computer science, but not that passionate about it. Unfortunately, because he did his thesis back in the, I think it was 85 or something like that, or 86. And he was doing image recognition at the time on the postal check. To have like handwriting image recognition, OCR, which is like actually a very hard problem at the time. But I don't know why. It was at the right time and on the right spot with the right problem, but it's not like very passionate about it. So I'm the passionate guy. Actually, I really love like video games. And this is how I started. And back in the days, for the newcomers, back in the days, I'm talking about the 90s. In the 90s, you had to be in command lines to actually, install your video games. And my father was not at home all the time. So I had to install my games and I was like just starting to read. I was like 7 years old the first time I installed my first game. So I was like typing those like C, double dot, like backslash, Windows.
We know those days.
Oh my God. With the driver, DirectX, etc. And one day I wanted to change for whatever reason, some configuration on the hard drive and I crashed the hard drive and I had to like rebuild everything. So yeah, video games dragged me into this thing. Not really a family, but really like the passion of video games and understanding how you build video games, starting to code some video games, and that's how I got into it.
So congratulations, you've managed to raise like $10 million, which is no small feat. Can you just walk through the fundraising process and how it became successful? How did you do so well?
That's a good question. So when we started, I raised actually 4 million and then we raised another 16 million. But the first time was the question like, how did we raise the first 4 million? And that's a good thing for people that wants to be founders, is that, there are many things that you can change, right, in the future, but there are few things that you can change in the past. And if you want to start a company, people will look at the past, who you are, who you work with, how did you help the community, etc. That's not something I was aware at the time, but I helped the community like a lot. The entrepreneurial community, especially in France, when I was like working at OVH Cloud, I was trying to just help people and make them successful. I didn't care about what was the future. It's just like I'm passionate about entrepreneurs. So I did that, and I started to build this business angel group, which is not mandatory for the story, but still. And I have those different funders. And when I say, hey, I'm gonna start my own gig, people just ping their VCs and stuff and say, you need to back this guy. This is the most successful business angel we had. He's the smartest guy we know. That's what they said. That's not what I think. Uh, so I don't mind not calling myself the smartest, but whatever. And the point is like your reputation is everything. And so at some point, people say, whatever you're going to do, we trust the people that trust you and we want to put money in the company. And actually, we pivoted twice before we got there. And yes, it's successful now, but it was not at the beginning, and the idea was shit at the beginning, to be honest. But people back you based on your cred. So yeah, help the community as much as you can. Be very mindful of the people that you work with. Try to make them successful. Don't expect anything in return. If you're doing good, is going to come to you at some point.
Oh, that's very interesting. So what was the biggest challenge that you faced while securing funding then?
The first time, no, not a challenge. Then for the A round afterward, it was like a bit more challenging. When you start to go into A, you need to have a real business. You need to have a real product market fit. Not a real, like you can have not 100% product market fit, but you need to have like probably 70, 80% product market fit. Maybe we're going to talk about product market fit afterward, but that's probably the most important thing that people are looking for, your capability to build a team, etc. And the thing that happened when you are in A, people are start to look at you not as a person. And when they invest in seed, usually they know they're going to be some, you're going to shift your project in some ways. You're going to pivot or whatever. So they trust more the people. When you start to go into AI, it's not only the founder, but then it starts to be the project. And when you're in AI, it's extremely competitive space, especially with OpenAI and their funding. And the question becomes like, why would Google not build the same thing? How would you compete with OpenAI with like X billion, 100 billion in fundraising? How would you compete against whatever? All those things. So the questions becomes, and the biggest challenge becomes your positioning. Are you able to anchor your positioning into a very competitive space? So that's why I would define like being the most challenging thing when you're in A, being sure that you have the product market fit, but that's not enough. You need to have an anchor into a very specific positioning and be very clear on the positioning.
So how do you make sure you've got the product market fit right?
That's a good question. I actually was with Entrepreneur First like a few weeks ago, and that's probably the most asked questions to someone who managed to get there at some point. And my answer is always the same: you will know. So it's a bit like when you feel in love and say, how do you know you're in love? You will know, right? It's a bit the same with your product. And the reason being the market is going to feel in love with your product at some point. And market can be developers, can be B2C, B2B, whatever. And feeling in love is not just about some criteria. When I met with my wife, I felt in love. It was not about like the heights and the weights and the hairs and the eyes, etc. It's not like criteria. Yes, of course, it's impacting. It's affecting your decision. That's of course. But there is a matter of time. There is a matter of energy. There is a matter of like the ambience where you are. Maybe if you're in a good mood, not in bad mood, what you eat, etc. So there are many things that are happening. So you can have the right product, but you might not be at the right time. And we've seen so many people building, for instance, chatbots in the last like 5-10 years, let's say 10 years, and they didn't manage to find the product market fit. And at some point, you get like these OpenAI's based chatbot, and then they are booming and making huge revenue very quickly. It's not the idea that was bad. It's not the need that was not there. It was not even about the technology, because sometimes you have some very beautiful chatbot. It's just about the energy of the market also. So I would say the PMF, you're going to feel it in your guts. That's one thing. And the other thing, build something that people that they actually want. So you need to talk to as many people as possible. So people tends to be secretive when they say, I'm still starting this stealth product and blah, blah. I don't want to talk about people who are going to copy. People don't give a shit about copying you. I'm telling you. All what matters is the execution and the impact. So to have a product market fit, there are some things that you can do. Talk to as many people as possible. Try to solve a problem that actually people care about, people have money for, etc. So read the mom test. That's a good example of the kind of a journey you need to have. Read the lean startup. Those are good ways to start to have like some ideas of to make it successful. But the product feeling in love with your market and the market feeling your product is not something that you can like actually define 100% with a recipe.
So you actually landed some like major clients, big names like Citibank, Microsoft, Oracle. What strategies like helped you attract and close those kind of deals and interact with those kind of clients?
You have to simply make a product that people want. Going back to the same thing, they have a repetitive pattern. If you talk to as many people as possible and you put a check mark every time you talk to someone in the company, say, I had this problem, I had this problem, this problem. The more people you talk to and the more checkbox you're going to have by solving this problem, the more chance you're going to have this problem being repeatable, including in big companies, right? So the problem that we have seen on our hand by talking to as many people as possible was that people were looking for speech to text with speed, and that was like at the time extremely slow. Like batch speech recognition was taking like 45 minutes for 1 hour of recording. That's huge. So company can't operate this way. Second thing, people were looking for something that is cost effective. Costs were like 1.5 to $2 per hour. To give you an idea of what is $1.5 per hour, if you go in low wage countries such as like Philippines and Thailand, etc., you're gonna have someone that's gonna actually like type something. You can have a secretary that's gonna be for 1 hour typing on the keyboard. So the price is roughly the price of a human. So it's too expensive and you can't make it at scale. And the third thing was like the quality. And that's something that we had because we were born in Europe that others didn't have because they were in the US, is that you have very few data sets in Europe. So the gap between the state of the art and the actual technology was bigger in alternative languages, such as Spanish, French, Italian, etc. So we saw that there will be a need coming from the market with the pressure of the demand that won't be able to be fed with the current technology. And we saw that transformers were like booming in LLMs, etc. So we knew that the technology is going to shift from old RNNTs and stuff like that into transformers. So we decided to bet on this sec-to-sec architecture to tackle the multilingual problems we were having. But that's because our market in Europe was shit, and you have to be multilingual. But if you're in US, you have like 300 million people to address, so that's easier.
Yeah.
But big corps like Oracle, Microsoft, and you name it, whatever, like Citibanks and whatever company, they have the problem. They have people in the US, of course, but they have like hundreds of thousands of other employees that are all across the globe. And in Japan, they need good transcriptions because they don't speak English very well. So they need to have real-time transcription, real-time translation, and it's the same for other countries. So we decided to build for this alternative market. And again, you talk about founder and product market fit. There are some two markets. You have the red ocean market and you have this blue ocean market. Red ocean is where you have like a lot of companies solving the same problems, and you kind of achieved kind of commoditization of the market, which is the case for speech to text in English. And then you have the blue ocean where it's like only dolphins and you have no sharks in there. And this is where nobody is, but for many reasons, because sometimes it's more juicy to get with the sharks. On our hand, the natural market for us was blue ocean, because there was nobody, because nobody care about a tiny market like France. Nobody cares about the tiny German. But if you put all them together, like Europe is like 500 million people. So you still have something to be done, but you have 27 regulations, different regulation. You have 27 languages minimum. So it's painful, but it's worth fighting for it. So that's what we decided.
So let's move on now onto the AI and how what its role is in your company. So it is rapidly evolving all the time. How does your company like leverage it to stay ahead?
So on our hand, you have basically two type of AIs. You have the fundamental one, the foundation models that we are building for speech. And then you have all the other machine learnings and AI tools that we use to make the model being better. So usually in general, I want to say, an AI can't be autonomous. They will have some ways to make them autonomous, maybe in the future, but for now you can't. So let's take ChatGPT, for instance. If you don't put guardrails, then the ChatGPT is going to start to insult you and being like, Nazi and all these problems, right? So you need to have another AI or another machine learning that's going to do content classification to make sure that it's being moderated. So you start to have like one AI that controls another AI, or you can call it AI or machine learning, it's the same thing. It's the same for us. We have a foundation model, but we need to put some various guardrails around it to make sure it's safe, to make sure it's like more precise, etc. So usually what I would recommend for any entrepreneurs or any company is like to make sure that it's never black or white. It's always something in the middle. It's always like it's not Manichaean world. Oh, this LLM will do everything. No, we will have to have LLMs. You will have to have like classifiers. You will have to have name entity recognitions. You will have to have like various models that will need to collaborate to achieve the best in class performance while maintaining the cost at a appropriate pace, right? At appropriate level, I would say.
What are, in your opinion, the biggest misconceptions about AI?
AI can solve it all. That's the first misconception. And for now, AGI. Even if I think we're gonna have AGI, I shouldn't say that, but 8 years ago I was like, AGI is bullshit. We're never gonna see it. And then after probably like 6 years ago, I said, oh, maybe I'm gonna see it when I'm gonna be like 70. And then I'm like, maybe I'm gonna see it when I'm gonna be 50. And now I'm like, maybe we're gonna see it in like 3-4 years. So we have the right to be wrong. But among the misconceptions is like AI is going to do everything. AI is going to be good for some of the tasks. But I think people really underestimate how the human brain is cheap to operate and is efficient to learn. If I just take this like AirPods and I just drop it, and you've never seen an AirPod before, right? That's the first time you see an AirPod or whatever, okay? You know it's going to drop, right? So you've learned the physics enough and very like instinctively, like any kids that is like probably like 2 months old is going to take something, grab it and drop it. Then you see an apple for the first time, he's going to see the apple. You know that if he takes the apple in his hand and drop it, it's going to fall, right? An AI is not able right now to be that smart. And people tend to underestimate their brain and overestimate AI. But AI is like relatively fairly stupid. So I would say that's the biggest misconception of people that thinking that. And the second one is that I'm saying that's scaring me a little bit. People tend to think that AI is relatively unbiased, especially with those like more natural communications that we start to have, right? Even if you're like a female is interacting with OpenAI conversational mode, right? With speech, you have around 20% less accuracy when the female is talking. When the kid is talking, it's like around 50% less accuracy. So even if it doesn't look like, you have biases and blah, blah, behind the scene, there are a lot of biases in the way you're being treated. So that's the other misconception. People think it's going to solve everything. People think that it's acting the same way for everyone, and that's not true. So I think we should all be aware of that and be very careful with that. And actually, collaboration with other machine learning algorithms are helping to kind of tackle those problems also.
So you mentioned some of the safeguarding issues that you've had to combat. Are there any other ethical issues regarding AI that maybe you hadn't thought about but have turned up somewhere along the line?
Oh, so many. Like the kids and the female thing is definitely something. But when we started with voice, we didn't thought that there were so much impact with the telephony layer that is 8 kilohertz. So most of the algorithm has been trained on 16 kilohertz. So you think it doesn't have much impact, but it has like a huge impact. So the telephony, I can go on and on. Like you think like you're having this iPhone, then you say, hey, good, it's working well. No, because most of the people are having a shitty phone like the other one I have on the side. You don't realize you're most of the time, most of the developers are in their, let's say, 20s to 50s, in their cave, male, English speakers, with a Mac, right? And an iPhone. Or maybe Linux if you wish. Most of the users are male and female in maybe their 60, 70 if you're working like for medical systems, speech recognition with shitty Windows or a shitty phone, calling at 8 in the morning when they are tired, they have hard time to speak and stuff. So those biases are very hard to have in your conceptions when you start. And it can be having an ethical problem when you're starting to select your provider. Okay, you do your test with like XYZ and you do with your own biases, and actually that's might not be good for the people you're working for, right? The customers. The other thing I'm saying is like the data. Data is such a big problem, really unethical. Like people are pumping the data from everywhere, not giving any credits to the data they are getting from like the creators of contents. Like I mean, like people are generating like so much content every day, and we are used to consume it for free on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. So we start to think that content is free, but we don't give credit to the creators. And AI actually using a lot of those elements. And I think that becomes a problem in two reasons. First, it's not fair. And the second reason is that you have natural biases into where you get the data from. It becomes probably people that have high salary or high standard of life, so they have different opinions, etc., etc. I can go on and on and on, and that's a big problem. And the third one, and I will stop after that, is that in terms of ethics, I think we are putting AI everywhere, and we should be relatively careful. In terms of ethics, we need to think about the future and our kids. And I don't think that building like giant data centers of hundreds of thousands of like GPUs everywhere, running on coil energy or running on gas is a good way to see the future. Yes, we're gonna have AGI, we're gonna have many things, but at some point we need to be thinking about the ethics. Does it work? Is it only for my own purpose, or is it for the good of everyone? Does it worth it? Is it good for the future, etc.? And I think we are just excited by the technology, but we start to, I would say, being less and less thankful for the resource we have and for the one that we want to leave for the kids. And we need to be thankful for the planet for giving us energy, but we need to be relatively careful with what we do with it, and not putting every AI in every stupid device that you have.
Sometimes less is more, right? Um,
Yes.
if we look at your the future of your company, like if you're honest, where do you see like AI in tandem with your company, like over the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I think we're gonna still be a foundation, a speech infrastructure platform. But I would like to build an ecosystem around us. I would like to gather to be more and more open. No, we have our own technologies internally, but I would like to open the technology more. I would like to have kind of a marketplace, or creators being able to push their data, having some creators of algorithm being able to push some plugins, some add-ons in there. Say, hey, I've built this amazing add-on that is optimizing the health state recognition by filling the voice of the patients, and I'm able to give you another, not only the speech recognition, the transcription, but I'm able to give you like an emotional state and give you like the probability of having COVID or some whatever disease based on the voice spectrum you're gonna have. And I think this is where I want to land. I want to land with an ecosystem around us to make the future a bit more bright by having like better use cases, because I don't think one company can solve everything. I think we're gonna have plenty of specialists, plenty of university that gonna develop their own algorithm at some point, and it's gonna be fair not to integrate that fully, but also to give them to give back to them some rev shares so that they can finance their research while still being able to leverage their algorithm into real life use cases to make the world better. So that's how I see the company being more open in the future.
I imagine when you're dealing with stakeholders and customers that they kind of put forward a lot of suggestions. How do you differentiate between like a customer like wish list and something that's a real problem that's actually worth solving?
It's it's a very good questions for builders. Hey, it's on the roadmap and it's gonna be $10 per month extra. Do you want me to put you in the alpha and have this $10 and we're gonna charge you like not this month but the next month? And see their reaction. Yeah, they're like, oh, $10 seems to be a little bit expensive. No, it was just more question I was asking if you are willing to do it in the future. That's a very simple question. And the other one is like a method that's called rice, like the rice you eat, which is going to help you to have some criteria to see the number of customers that are impacted, what is the revenue that is going to potentially bring on the table, the impact is going to have, the difficulty to develop it, etc. And if you use this RICE method, then you're going to have a fairly good understanding of what's actually worth working on. And again, it goes back to my initial statement, talk to as many people as possible.
It's a great answer. I really love that. I'll see if I can steal that for myself one day. Unfortunately, we are coming towards the end of the podcast, but one last question I always like to ask, and that is, what advice would you give to other Bright founders?
Depends if they're first time or second time founder. Second time founder, they know what to do. So I won't be the one giving them advice. But for the first time founders, if they didn't start, the question is like, just start. The advice is just start. I'm thinking about something, just start. Okay, that's the best advice. Unless you don't start, you don't know. And the second advice for people that actually started and find it hard, that's something I keep repeating to the teams. if it's hard for you, it's hard for everyone. So every step you're going to take is a step to a distance to your future competitors or potential newcomers in the market. So think of it as everything that is difficult makes your product a bit different, makes your product having more value, less reproducible. So keep pushing.
Amazing answer. JL, I just want to thank you again so much for taking the time to talk with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Same there. Thank you, Barry, for having me.
That was Jean-Louis Quéguiner, founder and CEO at Gladia.